Deep in a forgotten valley, hidden away from maps and untouched by modern roads, stands a bridge unlike any other. At first glance, it appears ordinary, built from weathered stones, its arches stretching across a quiet river that flows gently beneath. But the silence surrounding it is not peaceful. It is suffocating. Birds do not sing here, animals avoid its path, and even the wind seems hesitant to disturb the stillness. For centuries, villagers from nearby settlements have spoken of this bridge in hushed tones, passing down the legend as both a warning and a curse. They call it the bridge that no one crosses twice. The name alone carries a weight of mystery, a grim reminder that those who dare to step onto it are forever changed. The story begins far back in history, when the bridge was first constructed. No one truly remembers who built it or for what purpose. Some say it was erected by ancient rulers to connect their kingdoms, while others whisper that it was built during a time of war, intended to carry soldiers across the river. Yet what makes it strange is not its origin, but the silence surrounding it. Unlike other monuments or structures of the past, no inscriptions exist, no written records detail its creation, and no legends celebrate its builders. The bridge simply exists, timeless, unclaimed, and wrapped in mystery. Generations of locals tell tales of those who attempted to cross it. Travelers in search of a shortcut, merchants carrying goods, or even villagers daring each other in foolish acts of bravery. The stories are always the same. The person sets foot on the stones, walks steadily across, and either disappears into the mist or returns not as themselves, but as something hollow, broken, or lost. Some vanish without a trace, leaving behind carts, clothes, or tools on the far side of the river, as if they stepped through an unseen doorway. Others stumble back days later, unable to explain where they had been, their memories shattered into fragments they cannot piece together. 1. Of the oldest legends speaks of a young woman who once crossed the bridge, searching for her lost child. She was never seen again, but days later her voice was said to echo across the valley on nights when the moon was full. Another tale describes a group of soldiers who marched across, never to return, while their commander's sword was discovered, leaning against the bridge's railing, untouched by rust as though it were preserved by some unnatural force. These stories are not written in books or official records, but are etched deeply into the oral history of the valley, told by elders. Around firesides, their voices lowering as the tale grows darker. What makes the legend powerful is its persistence. Despite centuries passing, despite science and reason advancing, the fear has never faded. Parents still warn their children not to wander near the valley. Travelers crossing through the region are told to take longer, safer paths rather than approach the cursed bridge. Even in modern times, when superstition is often dismissed, there are few willing to risk stepping onto those stones. And for the few who do, the outcome seems to echo the stories of old: strange vanishings, confused wanderers, or eerie silence when they fail to return. The name, The Bridge That No One Crosses Twice, is not just a title. It is a chilling truth embedded in the culture of the valley. Some interpret it as a metaphor for change, that those who cross it leave behind their old selves and never return the same. Others believe it to be a literal warning, that the bridge consumes those who attempt to defy it. In both interpretations, the meaning is the same. The bridge is not just a path from one side of the river to another, but a threshold between the known and the unknown. It is a boundary where the world of the living brushes against something else, something that resists explanation, something that lingers beyond the reach of human understanding. The legend endures not only because of the fear it inspires, but because of the unanswered questions it raises. Why was it built? Why does it continue to stand strong while time erodes everything else around it? And most importantly, why does no one who crosses it ever seem to return unchanged? For those who live near the valley, the answers do not matter as much as the warning itself. They have accepted the bridge as a mystery best left unsolved, a place to be feared, avoided, and spoken of only in whispers. The legend of the bridge might have been dismissed as mere superstition, if not for the chilling record of disappearances tied to it. For centuries, accounts have surfaced of those who dared to cross and never returned, and while stories can often be exaggerated, the sheer number of unexplained vanishings is impossible to ignore. Local archives, parish records, and even weathered journals preserved in nearby villages speak of men, women, and children who set foot on the stones and were never seen again. Their names appear in faded ink, written with the sorrow of family. Members who waited for their return, their grief lingering across generations. Merchants traveling with goods were among the first to draw serious attention to the phenomenon. In several documented cases, caravans were found abandoned near the bridge, with horses tied to posts, wagons neatly packed, and no sign of struggle. The goods were untouched, suggesting robbery was not to blame. Yet the owners of those belongings had vanished into nothingness. The eerie stillness of these discoveries terrified investigators, who could not determine whether the people had drowned, been attacked, or simply walked into a void. Stranger still were the few belongings left scattered directly on the bridge itself. Boots placed side by side, satchels laid carefully against the railing, and even messages carved hastily into the stone surface, as though written in desperation before the person disappeared. One such carving remains visible today, though, faded by weather. It reads only 3 words, "I see them." Who them referred to, no one knows. Some speculate it was hallucination brought on by exhaustion, while others believe it was a final message about something otherworldly witnessed in those last moments. Whatever its meaning, the carving has become a grim reminder of the fear that grips anyone who dares to approach. Among the more unsettling stories are those involving soldiers. During a time of conflict centuries ago, regiments marched through the valley, some of them choosing to cross the bridge as a shortcut. Entire units vanished without a trace, their commanders' swords or banners left leaning against the stone, railings as if abandoned in haste. Villagers who lived nearby recalled hearing shouts and the clanging of armor on the night the soldiers disappeared. But when dawn came, silence ruled the valley and the bridge was empty. For authorities, these disappearances were difficult to explain, especially when supplies and equipment were left intact while human lives had simply ceased to exist. There are also accounts of ordinary travelers who attempted to cross in search of adventure or out of simple necessity. In one particularly chilling case, a scholar passing through the valley left behind a detailed journal. His final entries grew increasingly erratic as he approached the bridge. The last page was scrawled with shaky handwriting. "I am not alone. The bridge is not empty." Days later, only his satchel and notebook were found on the far side. His body was never recovered, nor was any evidence of foul play. The impact of these disappearances rippled through the communities surrounding the valley. Fear became part of their daily lives. Farmers avoided the road leading near the bridge. Children were warned never to stray too far from home, and traders began avoiding the entire region altogether, fearing they might lose their lives along with their livelihoods. Economic records show a sharp decline in trade through that route, which once thrived due to its central location. The bridge had become not only a symbol of death and loss, but also a curse that brought isolation to the entire valley. Authorities eventually attempted to take control of the situation. Wooden barriers were erected around the approaches, signs were placed warning travelers to keep away, and patrols were assigned to divert anyone who ignored the warnings. But curiosity has always been a powerful force, and stories of the bridge only seem to grow stronger when forbidden. Adventurers, thrill-seekers, and those skeptical of superstition continued to approach, determined to test the legend for themselves. Some were never seen again. Others returned, but their accounts offered little comfort. whispers of hearing voices on the wind, of feeling a sudden drop in temperature, of sensing unseen eyes following their every step. Over time, the bridge's reputation became notorious. Scholars debated its mysteries, writers romanticized its dangers, and ghost hunters turned it into a symbol of the supernatural. Yet beneath the stories, the simple truth remained. Too many people had vanished under circumstances no rational explanation could account for. To the locals, each disappearance was not merely a tale of mystery, but a wound, a reminder that something about the bridge defied human understanding. As the legend of the bridge spread beyond the valley, it drew not only fear and caution, but also curiosity from scholars, scientists, and those fascinated by the unexplained. Every culture that encounters a mystery seeks to rationalize it, to turn whispers into theories, and to impose meaning upon the unknown. The bridge was no different. For centuries, countless explanations have been proposed, some grounded in science, others in folklore, and many blurring the line between the two. Yet, despite their diversity, none have been able to offer certainty. One of the earliest theories comes from natural science. Some geologists have suggested that the bridge was built upon a rare magnetic anomaly, a place where the Earth's natural fields distort compasses and disorient the human mind. Such regions exist elsewhere in the world, often inspiring legends of vanishings and strange sensations. According to this idea, those who attempted to cross the bridge may have been overcome by confusion, wandering into the wilderness where they met their end. But critics argue that this fails to explain why belongings were often left neatly behind, or why some individuals were found days later in states of near catatonia, unable to remember their own names. Another explanation revolves around the river itself. Though it appears calm and shallow, hydrologists have speculated that it may conceal hidden currents, whirlpools, or sudden sinkholes. Perhaps those who disappeared slipped into the water and were pulled away to unseen caverns beneath the surface. Yet this theory falters when one considers that there are no recorded bodies recovered downstream and that many disappearances occurred without signs of anyone falling at all. Horses and carts left untouched near the bridge suggest that the vanishings were not accidents of nature but something more deliberate, more targeted. Then come the theories rooted in folklore, which are perhaps the most haunting of all. Many villagers whisper that the bridge was constructed over sacred land, perhaps an ancient burial ground or a site of forgotten rituals. To disturb such a place, they say, is to invite a curse. According to this perspective, the bridge is not merely a physical structure but a spiritual boundary, one that demands a toll from anyone who dares to cross. Some elders even insist that the souls of those who vanish are claimed as offerings, bound forever to the stones of the bridge, which explains why the structure itself never seems to decay despite centuries of weather and time. There are also more fantastical explanations, ones that step beyond the boundaries of conventional thought. The most persistent of these is the idea that the bridge is a portal, a gateway between worlds. Supporters of this theory argue that the disappearances are not deaths, but transitions, that those who cross the midpoint are pulled into another dimension, another reality, or perhaps even another time. This would account for the lack of physical remains, the eerie stillness, and the rare survivors who return speaking of visions they cannot describe. The portal theory has been fueled further by eyewitness accounts of strange lights glowing above the bridge at night, flickering like stars trapped in the mist. Paranormal researchers, ever drawn to places of mystery, have conducted investigations, attempting to capture evidence of the supernatural. They bring cameras, sensors, and instruments designed to detect energy fluctuations. While most results are inconclusive, there are reports of equipment malfunctioning near the bridge, batteries draining instantly, and recordings filled with unexplained static or faint voices. Skeptics dismiss this as coincidence or poor methodology, but for believers, it is confirmation that the bridge stands upon a threshold not meant for human passage. Sociologists, too, have weighed in, proposing that the bridge's legend is a product of collective memory and fear. According to them, the vanishings may have mundane explanations, bandits, natural accidents, or the harshness of wilderness life, but were transformed over time into myth. Each retelling exaggerated the danger until the bridge itself became more symbol than structure, a vessel into which generations poured their anxieties about the unknown. This interpretation holds weight, yet it does not account for the undeniable fact that even in recent times, with modern surveillance and tools, the bridge has continued to inspire unexplainable events. The persistence of these theories, scientific, folkloric, and fantastical, speaks to the human need to understand what lies beyond the veil of reason. Some argue that the truth must be hidden in plain sight, an interplay of natural phenomena that creates the illusion of mystery. Others insist that the bridge resists explanation precisely because it was never meant to be understood. To this day, debates rage in academic circles, on internet forums, and among locals who continue to live in its shadow. But no matter how many theories are offered, the bridge remains defiant, a silent guardian of secrets that no one has been able to fully uncover. For those who live in the valley near the bridge, fear is not simply an emotion, it is a way of life. Over generations, the bridge has shaped the rhythms of their existence, dictating what routes they take, what stories they tell, and even how they raise their children. The locals know its history better than any outsider, and because of this knowledge, they avoid it with an instinctive caution that feels almost like inherited memory. To them, the bridge is not just a structure of stone and timber, it is a presence, a looming reminder that some boundaries are not meant to be crossed. In the older part of the village, there are still families who claim their ancestors helped construct the bridge. Their tales are laced with regret, suggesting that from the very beginning the project was marked with unease. Workers spoke of tools disappearing at night, of voices carried on the wind as they laid the first stones, and of shadows moving across the riverbanks when no one was there. Many believe that the original builders paid a price for disturbing the land, and that their descendants still live under the shadow of that choice. It is not unusual for villagers to whisper that every disappearance is a reminder of a debt that was never repaid. Daily life has adapted to this fear in subtle but profound ways. Children are taught from a very young age to stay far from the river, especially near twilight, when the mist grows thick and sound seems to travel strangely. Stories are shared not as entertainment, but as warnings, meant to instill respect for the unseen. Parents tell their children never to venture near the bridge even in daylight, for they say its silence hides more than darkness. It hides an invitation. Teenagers sometimes challenge these warnings drawn by curiosity, but even the most rebellious rarely dare to set foot on its stones. Those who do are often marked by the experience, returning pale and shaken, unwilling to speak of what they saw or felt. The fear is reinforced each year during the village's gatherings and festivals. Around the fire, elders retell the stories of those who vanished, each tale ending not with closure, but with absence. Names of the missing are spoken with reverence, as though they were taken by something beyond comprehension. It is said that, during these nights, no one laughs too loudly, no one strays too far, and no one looks toward the river. The silence in these moments is as heavy as the stones of the bridge itself, and it binds the community in a shared recognition of their vulnerability. Shops and inns in the valley, especially those near the main roads, also reflect this unease. Outsiders who arrive often ask about the bridge, lured by rumor or local folklore, and they are met with a mixture of impatience and dread. Some innkeepers flatly refuse to answer questions, muttering only that curiosity kills faster than time. Others reluctantly share bits of information, though always with warnings attached. There are reports of villagers growing visibly uncomfortable even at the mention of the bridge, their eyes darting to the door as if speaking its name might summon its influence into the room. Perhaps the most striking evidence of the locals' fear lies in how they navigate the land itself. Maps drawn by residents leave the bridge unmarked, as though erasing it from paper might erase it from reality. Paths are deliberately rerouted to avoid even crossing the river near its location. Hunters and travelers chart long detours, rather than risk proximity. Some families have even abandoned ancestral homes on the side closest to the bridge, preferring hardship over the constant reminder of its presence. This collective avoidance has created a psychological border that is as real and unyielding as the physical one the bridge represents. Despite their caution, fear has not erased curiosity entirely. There are always a few locals who wonder what lies behind the mystery. Some, driven by desperation or skepticism, have attempted to cross in secret, hoping that the stories are mere superstition. When they do not return, their absence becomes another thread in the web of fear, reinforcing the belief that no one can defy the bridge without consequence. Others who survive such attempts rarely speak openly, but carry a haunted look in their eyes, as though they glimpse something on the other side that language cannot contain. This fear, woven through generations, is both practical and spiritual. It keeps people safe, preventing reckless exploration, but it also imprisons them. For the villagers, the bridge is not just a place. It is a reminder of human limits, of the forces in the world that defy explanation and demand respect. To outsiders, it might look like mere superstition, but for those who have lived there, lives in the shadow of the bridge, it is an undeniable truth. Fear has become tradition, and tradition has become survival, ensuring that the legend of the bridge endures not as a tale to entertain, but as a warning carved into the very identity of the valley. The bridge stands in silence, weathered by centuries of rain, wind, and the steady erosion of time, yet its presence is as strong as ever. While other structures from its era have collapsed into ruins or been consumed by nature, this bridge defies decay in a way that feels unnatural. Stones that should have crumbled long ago remain intact, their edges only faintly worn. Moss clings to the surface, and vines creep along its railings, but none of these signs of age diminish its integrity. For the villagers and the few outsiders who dare to approach, this uncanny durability only deepens its mystery. It suggests that the bridge belongs not solely to human hands, but to something greater, something beyond ordinary craftsmanship. Historians who have tried to study the bridge often leave with more questions than answers. Records from the period, when it was supposedly built, are either missing or contradictory, leaving its origins shrouded in uncertainty. Some documents describe a wealthy landowner commissioning it to connect trade routes, while others mention a mysterious order of stonemasons, working under the cover of secrecy. There are even accounts of offerings being made during its construction, sacrifices to appease the river and ensure the bridge's stability. But none of these accounts are complete, and all are scattered, as though the truth has been deliberately erased. Scholars who attempt to reconcile these stories often find themselves trapped in a loop of speculation, each theory unraveling as quickly as it is formed. Travelers and researchers who come from afar often report strange experiences when standing near the bridge. Watches stop working, compasses spin, and in some cases, shadows fall in directions inconsistent with the light of the sun. Photographers have complained of their equipment malfunctioning, with images emerging blurred, distorted, or entirely blank when aimed toward the bridge. Such reports fuel speculation that the bridge is not just a relic of the past, but a threshold between worlds, a point where the ordinary laws of nature bend and falter. For some, this is proof that the bridge is cursed, while for others, it is evidence that it holds a secret science lost to time. The enduring mystery has also inspired countless stories, spreading far beyond the valley. Folklore collectors, paranormal investigators, and storytellers have all tried to interpret the phenomenon, turning the bridge into a symbol of humanity's fear of the unknown. Each generation seems to invent new explanations. Some say it is Guarded by spirits of the river, others claim it was built upon a fault line of reality itself, a place where dimensions overlap. More recently, fringe theorists suggest it is a kind of ancient technology, built by a civilization far ahead of its time and deliberately hidden from the rest of humanity. No single explanation satisfies, and that very absence of answers keeps the story alive. Among the villagers, the bridge has become more than just a physical presence. It is a cultural anchor. Songs, riddles, and warnings all carry its name, passed down through generations, as though ensuring its mystery remains unforgotten. Rituals still exist, where elders gather near but never upon the bridge, leaving small offerings of food or flowers at its entrance before quickly retreating. They say it is not to worship the bridge, but to acknowledge its power, to show respect so that its shadow does not fall too heavily upon the village. Outsiders sometimes misinterpret this as superstition, but for the locals, these practices are survival strategies woven into their way of life. The bridge's mystery also fuels an uneasy balance between curiosity and fear. On one hand, there are those who dream of solving it, of being the one to finally uncover the truth that has eluded generations. On the other, there are those who believe that such attempts are reckless, that the bridge should remain untouched and unquestioned. This divide has created tension not only within the village, but also between locals and outsiders. Some researchers have been driven away for pushing too far, while others have vanished, leaving only their equipment behind. Every attempt to reveal its secret seems to end with silence, and that silence speaks louder than any conclusion. At night, the bridge takes on an even more unsettling presence. Travelers who have camped near it describe hearing footsteps echoing across the stones when no one is there. Others claim to see figures standing in the mist, only to dissolve when approached. Lanterns flicker as though struggling against an invisible wind, and the air itself grows heavier, pressing against the skin and making it difficult to breathe. These experiences are often dismissed as tricks of the imagination, the result of nerves heightened by the bridge's reputation, but the consistency of the reports is difficult to ignore. Even skeptics who dismiss the supernatural aspect admit there is something about the place that defies explanation. Generations have passed, and still the bridge endures, untouched by the certainty of human understanding. Its story continues to spread, carried by whispers, rumors, and the occasional daring account of those who stood upon its stones. But the truth remains elusive, cloaked in shadows, waiting in the silent arches and the river that flows beneath. For every question asked, another rises, and for every mystery uncovered, a deeper one emerges. The bridge resists closure, defies simplification, and stands as a reminder that not all things in this world are meant to be fully known.